Hello, I am going to show you the steps to make this Mickey Mouse double glitter peekaboo tumbler. There is a turquoise glitter on the bottom and a dark blue glitter on the top, as well as holographic vinyl on top of all of that. If you have any questions, feel free to ask them in the comments below. We started with a basic tumbler. I gave it a quick sand and several coats of white matte spray paint. And now I'm just going to spray it off and wipe it down because I know that I have touched it with my bare hands, and any fingerprints or oils from my hands will make fish eyes in the epoxy that I'm about to apply. Also, one thing I do, I am in Michigan and it's winter, so I make sure I bring this inside because I spray paint in the garage, and then I let it sit in by a space heater for a while. Like while I'm prepping everything, I make sure the space heater is on it and it's at room temperature. There you can see I'm feeling it to make sure that the metal isn't cold anymore. Also with my epoxy, I put it in warm water so the epoxy isn't cold, and I found that this method helps prevent fish eyes. Seems like I only ever want to do tumblers in the winter, and I always fail until I figured out that it was from the cold and also the fingerprints that was causing fish eyes. So here we go. We're just going to take and look at my hairy arm, but I am dumping 10 milliliters of epoxy right on the top of the cup. And from there, we're just going to work it down around the whole cup. This is, I don't remember whose method this is, but I think they called it the hang method or something like that. You just enough to cover the tumbler. It's not a flood coat or anything. Just a very small amount. Just it's like using this instead of Mod Podge to get the glitter to adhere to the cup. So I'm just spreading it around. It's a little tricky to get it full coverage, but you just keep rubbing it everywhere and it will cover everything. So here it's like just a little tacky, and that's perfect. That's where we want it to be. So after you get the epoxy all applied, you're just gonna shake the glitter onto your tumbler. And you just spread it evenly. And go back and fill in any empty spots. This glitter is a Martha Stewart. It's got fine glitter, it's got chunky glitter, it's really pretty glitter, but it's kind of a nightmare to work with because the whole cup, it took like 4 coats of epoxy to finally get an even finish, but it was really pretty, or it is really pretty. So I guess it's worth it, but I have decided that I won't work with this again because of this. I don't know that I'll ever make this style cup again, but I didn't hate it. I just didn't like working with it. I'd rather use a microfine glitter and have a better finish on the epoxy. But yeah, you can see it catches the light. There's holographic. The chunky bits are holographic, and it's really pretty. So after you're happy with the coat of glitter you've laid, I'm going to take it and wrap it in, this is parchment paper, and the glitter and the epoxy won't stick to the parchment paper. So this, I'm just taking it with my hands through the parchment paper and smoothing out any of the unevenness I can, and it's kind of laying down the chunky bits that are sticking out. It kind of helps lay them down. This does not get all of the unevenness out, but it's quite a bit. So you're going to give that about 24 hours to cure, and then you'll put it on the cup turner and give it just a clear coat of epoxy, And this one's sped up. There's nothing really monumental about it. I just covered it up to kind of fill in all the gaps around the glitter. And then we were ready for the next step. After the second coat of epoxy is cured, I gave it a quick sand just to knock down any of the high bumps. I tried to even out anything I could, but I'm not super concerned about it being totally uneven yet. And I'm going to apply these vinyl decals that I made on the Cricut. This is just a removable vinyl. These are just a mask. These aren't going to stay. We're going to apply some glitter here in a little bit and then pull these off. So I'm just applying the vinyl decals. I have two different sizes. That outline of Mickey's head I made using the offset function in Cricut Design Space. Let me know if you need a tutorial on that. I can make one really quick. And I'm just spreading them out, kind of spacing them out and mixing them up as much as I can. And just adding them where I think they're necessary. On the last tumbler I made, I learned the hard way that once you apply the second layer of glitter, that these decals all but vanish. So I used another trick I learned from YouTube, and I'm applying a dab of hot glue to each decal so that I can find them underneath the glitter. And then this layer of glitter we're going to apply with 1 part acrylic paint, 1 part Mod Podge mix. And this will make it so that once it's dry, it's not like fully like cured, and I can get those decals out of there. Because if we used epoxy, the decals would like be stuck forever, or I'd have to try and poke around in the wet epoxy to find the decals. So this is just a little less messy, and I'm just painting on the mixture until I get a good coverage, and then I'm going to, here I'm picking a hair or something off from there, and then I'm going to apply the glitter. Now I did run out of my fine glitter in here. I think I stopped recording, but I went in, I had some chunky glitter of the same color, so I did kind of fill in like the bottom and some of the edges with the chunky glitter. You'll see that throughout the video in spots where this dark blue is a chunky glitter, and that's why. So don't be like me, plan ahead and make sure you have enough glitter. But here we go, we're going to start applying the glitter, and I think I cut off the video once I realized I'm going to run out and I start to panic, but you get the idea. You just apply, and look, I'm like, oh my gosh, my bottle's empty already. What do I do? What do I do? It's like PTSD reliving this. All right, so we made it work. You see, there's just a little bit of chunky. But overall, I got pretty good coverage, and the bottom was chunky. So, yeah, you can see, and you can see the little nubs where the glue is on the decals underneath. So I'm going to go in with my pointy tweezers. There's the nubs. And I get my pointy tweezers and I start picking it out. And this is a pretty tedious process, I'm not going to lie. There's nothing fun about this. Because it's the removable vinyl, it's not as high quality, so it falls apart. I think even the permanent vinyl would fall apart in this instance. So it comes off in multiple pieces. You got to worry about the glitter finish. So yeah, just be prepared to have a lot of patience to get this done. I'm not gonna use all of the footage I got because it's probably like 20-30 minutes of me removing this stuff, but I'll let you watch for a little bit. After the Mod Podge dried, I went in with a clear coat of epoxy, And the next day I came back and it still was pretty uneven and lumpy, so I sanded it and gave it a second coat of epoxy on top of that final layer of glitter. And after that, I decided it was good enough to go forward because we still had one more coat coming. So this is how the finish looks after essentially 4 coats of epoxy. And I'm going to give it a good sand because it's still not perfect. And also you want to sand in between every layer of epoxy so that the next layer of epoxy has something to grip onto or grab onto, I guess. So you see it's not perfect, but it's pretty close, and I'm going to really give that last coat a flood coat so that it will fill in any of the divots and stuff. So I'm giving it a good wipe down now to get rid of any oils or fingerprints again, and then I'm going to avoid touching it as much as I can. I'm going to give it another wipe down after I apply the decals, but I want to make sure I can get a good wipe down before I have the decals on. And here, this is the same cut I used for the masking decals. I'm just doing the opposite. So if I had a full Mickey head in the peekaboo, I'm going to give it an outline in this holographic vinyl. And I'm not going to do every single one because that would just be overkill. I mean, it's already full on glitter. We don't need to be assaulted with holographic in addition to that. But just a tasteful amount of holographic if that's possible. And I'm just going through and adding a few here and there. I did add an outline to both of the big Mickey heads. And then in addition, I added a couple of just the small Mickey heads as well. And once I have all of the decals applied, I'm going to hit them with a heat gun and a little more pressure to make sure they're all adhered all around. And then I'm going to give the cup one good wipe down. And then I'm going to go ahead and apply my final coat of epoxy. This one was 20 milliliters. I have 2 that I'm working on here, so it's a 40 milliliter cup I have there. I put a tiny bit of microfine holographic glitter in there just to give it a little bit more sparkle. Okay, so the next day we come back and everything looks good. The bottom is pretty smooth. It's a little bit rough. I might take a rotary tool to it and then put a coat of epoxy just on the bottom, but I'm not sure yet. We'll see how much it bugs me. As for the sides of the tumbler, they all turned out really good and really smooth. I love the effect of the different types of glitter and the holographic all combined together. And there is some overspray on the inside of the cup because I need to get those fancy cup protectors off from Amazon. I haven't yet. So I'm going to clean this with acetone. And I just put some on a cotton swab, and then I realize I have some on my fingers that I'm touching the cup with. So I go in and use a paper towel to protect the cup. And you just keep on working on it until you get it all out. It takes a little bit of elbow grease, but it does come off pretty easily. The spray paint comes off easier than if you have some epoxy that had gotten into there. If you have epoxy in there, you can use an X-Acto knife and just kind of scrape it out. Be careful, you can scrape the metal, so you just want to be careful to try and keep it, not gouge into the metal, but only scratch across the surface, if that makes sense. And I just do a combination of scraping and going back in with acetone to soften, and then scraping some more and then I have trouble with my focus, but overall we got it all off. You want to make sure that you wash this with soap before you give it away. And here is the blanket from Kohl's that inspired the whole mug, or tumbler, I guess. I wanted to make a gift basket with this, and I couldn't find a mug to match it, so that's what got my wheels churning to make my own. So I'm going to assemble a gift basket with this. I got this cute tub, and I'm going to put the wrapper in there so they know that I'm not giving them a used blanket. And I just kind of rolled up the blanket so that it would fit in there. And then I'm going to add the cup. And then I made this cute little shadow box just really quick with a bunch of stuff that I had on hand. I used the extra holographic decals from the cup, and I just put it on the inside or outside of the shadow box, and I put some glitter paper on the inside to just fill in the space and give them something else to fit with the theme. And there you have it. I hope you enjoyed.